if it is not comfortable or uncomfortable, you don't have to talk about this, but talk about the pain of war and what you saw.
The pain of war really comes from the fact that it's the human cost of war. And what I mean by that is we're well prepared, we're extremely capable technologically, but the part you can never fully get ready for, right, is when you see the real impact. We can prep for it, you can watch it on TV, but to watch now another human being suffering or the loss of a person, it hits you in a different way, because ultimately the true cost of these politicians may fight over borders or whatever we're fighting over, whatever the war's over, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's bore out by human beings in all cases. And when you see it, you come to appreciate the fact that people are precious.
Does it bother you? I had Jim Guy Tucker on here who went to war and was in Japan after it had been bombed, and the nuclear bomb, and he went all over Asia after Vietnam. And does it bother you? And it really bothers him. But when civilians cry war who don't really know about war and haven't seen war or its destruction and how it ruins a whole generation of people, when you see people like saying that on TV, like, let's go to war.
Absolutely. And I take it back to, do you really understand the cost of war? So I get we go to war for different reasons, and we have national interests and other things. At the end of the day, unless you can really understand the implications of what you're asking people to do, and it comes down to the potential cost in human lives, really understanding, is it worth it? And have you really exhausted all the alternatives before you put American sons and daughters in harm's way? So when you hear folks who almost, flipping like, well, we're going to go to war over this. War, many people will tell you, should always be the last option. And that means I've exhausted and I've fulfilled my responsibility to find a different way to achieve that ends before I start to risk people's lives. And it's just, to me, basic human respect. A leader, leadership is about people, period. It's about creating the conditions for people to flourish and thrive and be their best selves, right? Which means you always have to take that into consideration. And going to war, no one should ever take lightly. And I think what you're referring to is sometimes people make it look like it's an easy decision. And when they do, they don't know what they're talking about.
So I had General Wesley Clark on, and he went to West Point, and he loved being in the service because it leveled the playing ground between kids with high school educations and himself, who was a West Point graduate. And he got shot. And he said, these guys risked their lives to get me out of there. And he told his story when he got shot. Have you ever had anything like that happen where you're like, my brethren got me out of there?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. So this goes to why you become, once you've been in it. And so let's take Afghanistan.
Okay.
I'll remember one morning I had because of my very visible role there and some things, I had a security detail attached to me, right? And we lived with the Afghans because the nature of my job was to lead NATO's efforts to teach them how to build an air force. Now, building an air force in a non-war zone is hard enough. Imagine doing it in Afghanistan in an active place, and you're doing it with an average 8th grade education as your population group. So one morning, I get a knock on the door about 4:05 a.m., and it's my security detail, my personal bodyguard. And he says, look, we got to get out right now because we came under attack. And we had some guys who had gotten in the towers. They'd attacked the camp. We had RPGs, which are rocket-propelled grenades, going all around us. I mean, literally, we're hunkered down. You hear the bullets. But the thing about it is not that you're fearful. You're just really in tune with what's happening. But here's to answer your question. I just knew how an amazing organization I was a part of when, in the midst of all this, I look, and across from us, we had our security detail, 26 young Americans. Average age, 23 years old. I'll never forget the fire and all the things are raining in on the camp. And these kids come out, they have their helmets on, their boots, they still have the stuff they slept in. They ran to the fire because they knew their job was to defend and take care of every single person in that camp. And I just looked at this and I was in awe. I was like, that is why America is great. They will go and do what they're trained to do at great risk to personal self. They'll do it smartly. They'll do it as safely as they can. But at the end of the day, what they're focused on is getting the mission done. The mission is protect every single person that was depending on them. And they didn't blink an eye or hesitate. And about 3 hours later, it was all dead bad guys. and no one injured on our side.
Yay!
So there you go. There's your superhero movie for the night.
I was holding my breath for that one.
So it's like the Alamo, reversed.
Yeah, I was about to say, no, it's not.
That's inspiring to me. That's what it's about. It's and every time. So when you experience that, all you want to do is create the conditions for them to continue to grow and be better, because and I think that's what General Clark was talking about. The military gives you a sense of dependence and trust on other people to where you don't think about it. It's very hard to replicate that in other places. And part of it is because we train that way. We have to do it, but you consistently watch it exemplified. And on that day, to me, it crystallized like what an incredible gift we have in these courageous people who raised their hand voluntarily from all walks of life to put that uniform on. No one was forced.
For those interested in enlisting, talk about how you would go about getting started today.
Absolutely. So
how would you do it?
I think you, so go online, but the real thing is go talk to a recruiter, talk to a human, understand, and don't just talk to one. You may watch a movie and you're inspired by a particular service. I would tell folks today, talk to a recruiter from all the services. You might be surprised at what you learn. And it's an exciting time in America. We finally got our act back together and are going back to space. So the launch of Space Force gets us back now to think about new horizons. You've got amazing things going on in the Air Forces, the Marine, the Navy. If people understood the kind of mission diversity, anything you want to do, anything is available to you in the military.
I think people think that if they join the military, they're just going to end on the front line. They're going to end up on the front line.
Maybe 50 years ago or 30 years ago. But now, think about the way wars changed. We don't really fight standoff wars anymore, right? The way we do it. A lot of it's technology. A lot of it is intelligence. A lot of it is data. So it's a completely different world. It's about being smart. It's about being in tune. It's about learning to collaborate. It's all about being part of a team. The reason I would encourage folks, if you're confused about what to do and you're a young person, talk to all the service recruiters. Then go do it for 4 years. Why? The education benefits, but more importantly, you will grow as a person. You will grow as a leader. You will develop emotional intelligence on how to be part of a team. And your value to the workplace. You could leave there and be 22 years old with 4 years of world experience behind you, and you'll become a franchise player because you are learning skills that, where else are you going to get them?
I want to say to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Kerry McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. To watch the full-length interview, click the video in the top right. For more interview highlights, click the video in the bottom right. Thank you for watching.